Good morning. Twice a day we have Jesus talking about consecrating them, the disciples, in the truth. This is Jesus' priestly prayer to them right before he leaves to go home to heaven. He's praying for them. He says twice, consecrate my disciples in the truth. The word consecrate in the original Greek and Latin and Hebrew means to set aside for something special. Set these men aside, set these disciples of mine aside, set these followers of mine, these men and women. Set them aside to speak the truth and be the truth and witness the truth before all. I love this passage right before Pentecost. We were celebrating the stirrings of the Spirit in us on Sunday. Jesus prays for us. He is sending his disciples into the world, not taking them out of the world, to speak the truth, witness the truth, give glory to God by being consecrated in the truth. So what is Jesus saying to us? He's setting us all aside and equipping us with his grace and his Spirit with the special task of speaking the truth of the gospel to the world, which for John is the opposite of the truth. A story. Once upon a time, there was a very arrogant, tyrannical king who ruled his subjects with an iron fist. One day he learned that his daughter had fallen in love with a poor commoner. Enraged that his daughter would even think of marrying a worthless peasant, the king determined to put an end to that relationship permanently. So the king had the young man charged with a very serious crime. The commoner, of course, pleaded his innocence. As was the custom, the fates would determine guilt or innocence. So on the appointed day, the king summoned the people to the public square. The young man was brought before the king and the people at the square. The king held out 2 envelopes. Inside one envelope was a card with the word innocent. The second card contained the word guilty. The prisoner had to choose one, and that would determine whether he would be set free or executed. Now, the young man was no fool. He realized the king wanted him executed no matter what, so he knew the king had written guilty on both cards. So the commoner carefully chose one of the envelopes. He slowly pulled it out. He opened it slowly and silently read the card in front of the whole crowd and the king. And then he started jumping for joy, shouting, "I'm innocent! I'm innocent!" And in his excitement, he ripped the card into small pieces and swallowed it. One of the king's magistrates protested. A judge protested, "Wait a minute, how do we know you're innocent? You destroyed the card before we can examine it." The young man said, "Sirs, all you have to do is to read the remaining card in the king's hand to know that I'm innocent." Like the king, don't we sometimes try to manipulate the truth to our own ends? It might be something as simple as said, "I caught a fish this big." Or something more serious like perjuring ourselves before Congress or lying about something really serious. We seek to justify and rationalize our own sense of truth to fit our own needs and wants, but embracing the complete and real truth of the gospel and paying the price of proclaiming it, we can begin to transform our lives and those around us and the whole community and the world, Jesus says. What does it take? It takes knowing Jesus, who is the truth. They say, have that personal relationship with Jesus. When you and I develop that and we surround ourselves with him, immerse ourselves in Jesus and the gospel, we will know the truth. It gets in our bones. It gets in our DNA. We live in a world much more willing to bend, shape, rework, edit it, and manipulate and rationalize the facts to conceal the truth or to find the truth as we like it to be. Probably a lot of us, most of us here have bent the truth at times. But because we've heard the truth proclaimed, because we've witnessed the truth lived in the lives of really good people in our life, maybe our parents, a teacher, a mentor, a coach, or a really good friend that we know is just genuinely good, and when we're around them, we become better. They have told us and witnessed for us what the truth really is and what it looks like and feels like and acts like. It's someone filled with God's Spirit and God's grace to put that truth in our conscience, in our heart, in our soul, in our DNA. You know what I'm talking about. We all have somebody in our life that has done that for us. So we know inside our hearts the truth. We know that God's truth is centered on God's unconditional love for us and the sacredness of every human being created in the image and likeness of God. When we would not want to cheat or take advantage of or hurt or destroy. So the gospel challenges us to the truth, to recognize it and live it, to recognize prejudice when we see it and hear it, and biases when we see it on display, and hatred when we witness it, either in us or in another. And we've come to realize those things, those prejudices and biases and hatreds, that so can affect the decisions we make or temper what we hold up to be the truth. It can really temper those things, prejudice, bias, and hatred. And we know in our heart, because we've surrounded ourselves with people who know it, the truth, what we need to do. We're challenged to honor, regardless of the cost, the holiness of truth. Truth is rooted in the reality of God's love and the sacredness of every human being before us. So what do we do today, you and I? Pray for grace. What is grace? God's energy to be Jesus and know the truth and live it and speak it and witness it. Pray for grace today. God's energy to be Jesus. But isn't it reassuring to know today? Aren't you glad you came to Mass today? You're glad every day. And you at home, isn't it reassuring to know that Jesus is praying for us? It sure is for me.